For some of you will remember that a few years ago I won a 4.5 litre bottle of whiskey at the Molly Malone's 17th of March, St Patrick's Day celebrations. And the 17th of March is a particular day for us because that's the day our dad died. And we just couldn't believe that he did that to us because we always like to celebrate. Anyway, my brother who lives in Ohope said we should uncap it when Dad had his 30th anniversary. So last year that happened, and the whole family, my sister came from London, and the 5 of us were there. We uncapped this whiskey and we were all sitting around having a drink, haven't had the TV on, haven't had any news on. Get a text from my nephew to say, have we got our emergency kit prepared? No, we haven't got anything prepared, we don't even know what he's talking about. So we put the TV on and we see about the Japanese tsunami. So that was the end of the whiskey, the cap's on, and we're getting our backpacks ready because my brother lives right on the beach at Ohope. The next day we're walking along, it's a beautiful day and there's no sign of any tsunami coming into Ohope. But I got to thinking about what am I doing, you know, at my age, why am I continuing to work and have all that fun at work? Why shouldn't I be somewhere else having fun? So I decided to have a year's holiday. And these are the pilgrimages and the things that I've been doing. And my first one was to the Chatham Islands. My uncle was a radio officer, blah, 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 over there. He went for 3 years. No one believed him. So he was there for 8 years with his family. And my youngest cousin in that family, Mari, was born at the Chathams. And she is the person who walked the Camino with me. And my dear friend Ruth, who I travelled through Europe with, was born and brought up to the Chathams. She was thrown off a horse there and died there. So, you know, I had a little pilgrimage to do there. Just had to go to Darwin on the way to East Timor, where my son was deployed with the army. And slipping along to Germany, we did go to Ireland to find some relatives, which we did, and I'll just go on. This is Emmanuel. Now, you will remember, a lot of you, Emmanuel was a Rotary exchange student who lived with us for a year about 11 years ago. He stayed with Peter Grayling's family too, so it was great to visit him and his wife, and Emmanuel is coming here just after Christmas. So Emmanuel's got a business now where he makes wedding attire and does events, weddings and all kinds of things. He's a very, very talented person. When he finished his schooling here, he came back to Victoria University and did his design degree. So it was wonderful to visit Emmanuel and his parents. That's my sister, second in. And then we just travelled up to see friends and Tauka up in Lingen. Now I know that some of you have been on the adventure to Lingen and Meppen, but it was great to visit them. So these are our little Rotary connections. I went to the Rotary Club of Meppen and made a little presentation about what we're doing here, and they were most interested in that. In Paderborn in Germany, there is a centre for the Camino. It's a very interesting place, Paderborn. It's one of the oldest Catholic areas in Germany, and they have quite a relationship with the Camino Trail. Now, just heading on to the Camino, there are many Camino trails in Europe, and I hope you can see those little lines on the map, because you can walk any of those trails, and they will all head to Santiago de Compostela. We are only talking about the Camino Francais, which is this one along the top, the red one. So it's 777 k's, and you need to feel reasonably fit to start it. This is Mari and I, so my cousin who was born at the Chatham Islands. So we are leaving my sister's place in London to fly Ryanair. I don't have to say it. So we have one night at St. Jean Pied-de-Port, and then we are heading off on our first day. You will see this uniform many times in these pictures. That is the waymarker you are following. Now, the waymarker may be facing that way, or it may be facing that way. You have to work out which way you have to go. It doesn't necessarily face the way you're supposed to go. But anyway, this is our adventure for the first day. That's Mari, so you've seen both of us leaving. How happy we are, you know, we're not in the least bit tired. That is the first day's climb. 26 k's, and this is the 2nd of September, 18.5 k's uphill, and you can see where the border is. At the border, they ask you what your nationality is, so that when you get to Roncesvalles and you go to the Mass, they announce the countries of walkers who've come in that day. The downhill climb is very steep, 6 k's, and this is where you know you need 2 walking poles, because if you don't have 2 walking poles you could really be in quite a bit of difficulty. Anyway, we decided that we wouldn't carry our packs, we would be first class or business class pilgrims. So we had our packs carried. We paid €7 every day to have our pack carried, and just carried a little day pack. It made life a lot easier. But this day, you can see an A where it says Refuge Horizon. That's the only place where you can stay on that day. So if you are not walking all the way, you need to stay there. Not that many beds, so it pays to get there early. And yeah, it's a bit of a struggle that first day. Now this is your passport or your credentials, and Nikki knows all about this because she has walked part of the way. So every place you go and stay, you get a stamp, and that shows them when you get to Santiago that yes, you have done the walk and that you are a legitimate person. So my first book got drowned one day when I got drowned walking, so this was my second book, and the last stamp at the bottom, the blue one, is the stamp from Santiago. This is just the most beautiful bridge. This is day 4, and most of the places we stayed were on a waterway of some kind, and that's a particularly beautiful bridge. And you can see Mari, she's scrubbed up after the walk and looking pretty snazzy in her skirt. We were actually known as the fashion people of the way. Nothing to do with me. On the morning of day 5, there's a place at Puerto La Reina where the ways all meet. All the French ways meet together, and they have the statue of a pilgrim. Now, unfortunately, it didn't get light till about 7:30 in the morning, so this photograph was taken when it was a bit dark, just because we needed to get on our way and get walking. Because if we're walking 20 to 25 k's a day, we need to get cracking. Day 6, we're in a little lovely place called Estella. We've climbed a big hill to get there, and there was no accommodation, and we weren't sure where our luggage was, but we eventually found that. So we were told that there was a Benedictine monastery, and perhaps we'd get accommodation there. So we walked another large hill, and we got accommodation with the closed order there. There were 13 nuns. We just spoke to one of them who got us settled into our room. A most beautiful place. I don't know how many nuns they would have had there originally. There were a lot of places in the choir. But there's 13 there now, and they, for the Vespers and the Mass, they sang a 4-part harmony. One of the nuns was playing the organ, I understand if you want to be a Benedictine, you have to have a good voice, so there was no chance that I'd be left behind. Some of you will know that I'm a diabetic on insulin, so I was always trying to find a refrigerator to put my insulin in, almost impossible. But the marble floors here made a fantastic refrigerator, so look for a good floor if you've got that problem. We tried to get a double room with a bathroom if we could, because we didn't really want to sleep in the big albergas. We slept in one with about 60 or 70 people. It's quite a chorus during the night. And then about 4 o'clock in the morning, people start to get up because they want to be walking by 5. God knows why they want to walk for 2.5 hours in the dark and you don't see anything, but anyway. So everyone's got a bag liner, and Crinkle, Crinkle, Crinkle starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so even if you don't want to get up that early, well, you may as well get up because you're wide awake. Everyone's wearing their shell on their bag. It is a symbol of the way, and a lot of people are wearing little goods, showing how the early pilgrims carried their water and whatever else they carried in it. Maybe some wine, yeah. We're into really hot temperatures by now. It's way over 30 every day, so if you're walking along, you're happy to see the sun come up, and when the sun's on your left, you know you're heading west and you're going in the right direction. That's always helpful. So we're trying to keep cool, and you can see me wetting my towel. And I would have my towel wet and I'd have it over my head. So I've got my cap and then I've got my towel. Anyway, with all due respect to the Christmas time, I quickly got nicknamed the Virgin Mary because I sort of looked like this with this blue thing over my head. When you finish your walk for the day, you've always got more things to do. You've got to find your accommodation. You've got to find your luggage. You've got to find somewhere to eat. There's a lot of things to do when you get there. Not to mention washing your clothes for tomorrow, because you're only carrying 2 lots of clothes. One on, one off. Here we've come to a lovely little place, which is opposite a ruin of a monastery. Plenty of monastery ruins there. This bodega has got 2 taps there. One's running red wine and one's running water. And there's a little notice that says, this wine fountain's been installed and the instruction is not to abuse it. Now, I don't know what happened, but the day we got there, it was running neither water or wine, and we heard on the Camino grapevine later that it only runs on a Saturday now. Anyway, we thought we'd have our photo taken with it because it's really a lovely spot. Now, you meet people along the way, you may never see them again, you have one conversation, and some people you walk with for a while, and you know, it's all kinds of interesting conversations that happen. And these are places where people store their wine. We've been walking through wine country, walking through grapes. Yeah, quite amazing. These 3 pictures are of a statue at the top of the hill of pilgrims. You can see windmills there. There's a lot of windmills in Spain. It's very, they've got a good system of wind power. Here I am with a Santiago statue. They're all over the place, and it's really worth having your photo taken with these little statues. Here we are at what we call the Lollipop House. This day, Mari and I are totally exhausted. We can't, thanks, Stuart. We don't feel we can walk any further. We've got ourselves a bit lost. We've gone on a detour, and it was nice to see something that just amused us and gave us a few minutes to catch our breath. In the central part, in the Meseta, All the crops had been picked by the time we got there, wheat, sunflowers and everything, and there was a farmer disking. You don't really see many people on the farms. They live in the villages and go out onto the farms to work, not like here where we live on the farm. This is walking on the Meseta. It looks, as far as you can see, is just wheat fields, sunflower fields. That's 9 days of that. Some people could get a bit bored with it, but I actually enjoyed it. It's a time for you to reflect on why you're there. People come along and they say, oh, bom camino, and you have a conversation. If you speak the same language or have enough language to get a little conversation, but you don't want to forget why you're there, and I think that quiet time is a time to do that. This is just saying there's a map of the world, a bunch of kids. It's not really very clear, sorry. But there, children have planted trees and made a map of the world, which I thought was quite stunning, just to show you how different life can be. Now we get to Lyon, and we're well on the way now, and this is the door of pardon at the cathedral, and you get an indulgence if you stand under the door, so I'm probably going to heaven quite quickly. A nice little statue in Lyon where the feet are there. I've got my feet in the place where you can put your feet beside the pilgrim, so that's rather lovely. And this is the Hotel Parador, which was a monastery. It's had a checkered career. It's been a prison, it's been a concentration camp, and had many embodiments after the pilgrims were thrown out. A little Santiago in Astorga, where you're not allowed to use your camera, so I nearly lost my camera that day. There's a place where you're at an altitude of 1,500 metres, and this is a place where people take stones and they leave a stone from their country. The place, I gather, gets pretty messy by the end of the year, but we were lucky 2 weeks before we got there it had been cleaned up. But like all other pilgrims, we left our little treasure there too. This is at Ponferrada, where the Knights Templar had their castle. So some people might say another ruin, but really it was interesting. They've got a fantastic display on what life was for the Knights Templar and their apprentices. And I thought you might be interested in this. I guess this is the result of the downturn in life. The church, you can see, is just a ruin, and nothing's happening on this building. It doesn't look as though anything's been happening for some time. But look at the bridges. Aren't they amazing? So that'll be EU money. I waited there a while, hoping to see a truck go over. I might be able to take a photograph of the truck on it or something, but no, very little traffic. At Triacastella, we've got the Santiago cross, and this was an interesting little place where by now we've got into daily pilgrim masses, and it was very much into the Catholic side of the walk. And this priest was rather unusual. He had us all up on the altar, and everyone from the country had to read part of the Mass, and he there is stamping our passports. And this was a rather large herd of cows, walking through Triacastella. The herds of animals aren't very large, and they're housed in the summer because it's so hot, and housed in the winter because it's snowy. And there I am 100 k's out from Santiago. Now, because Mari had very bad blisters and a bad ankle, and both had the odd sick day, and we really didn't have enough time, we did take the bus a bit, but we did walk most of the journey. You can see the systems, people, when you are on this walk. This is Ben. Ben's bag exploded. He needed something out of his bag, and you can guarantee if you're not a systems person, it's right on the bottom. And Ben's bag was a total mess by the time he got it out, found what he wanted, and got it packed up again. So that's a typical scene. I'm always on a Guinness pilgrimage, and this is the only building in the village, and damn it, it's closed. Here I am 15 k's out. I've thrown off my leggings because we've gone through some cold weather, and see, I'm still smiling, no blisters, fantastic. And here we are at Santiago. We stayed 5 k's out the last night and just walked 5 k's in, and my sister in the pink came from London to meet us there, and we just had a wonderful couple of days. And soon after we arrived, we ran and got our Compostela. Some of it has got a bit cut off in the copying, but this is the certificate you get when you complete the walk. And I was told I was the 275th person to have arrived, New Zealander to have arrived at Compostela this year. So that was great. And it's not a good picture of the inside of the cathedral. Didn't have any good pictures at all, but there is this amazing incense burner that flies around, so, and you really think it's going to hit you on the head when you're sitting there, and it takes 8 people to operate this. It's like ringing bells, and those were 3 people tying it up at the end. And after we had been in Santiago a day, we went to Finisterre, which in the old days was the end of the world, before they knew that the world was not flat. And Rotary is there big time. So that's a picture of me with one of the Rotary plaques and another one as well. So that's just a brief little run through of some of my adventures for the year. And it's just been a wonderful experience, and as Nikki knows, the last part of the walk is fantastic. Quite hard, but it's well worth doing, and just remember 2 sticks, 2 sets of clothes, and not much else. Thank you.